In this lesson, we're talking about how many contracts will you need. We're going to talk about Party A and Party B options. We're going to talk about production contract, and we're going to talk about the export contract. So first, just know that there's Party A and there's Party B, and it can be either you as an individual as Party A and the factory is Party B, or it can be you as a company or a legal entity as Party A and the factory as Party B. And the reason why this is important is for taxes. You as the importer, you have to pay taxes to the country in which you're importing into, and the exporter, they have to pay taxes to, in the case of the Vietnam factory, to the Vietnam government. The export contract in particular is a legal document that the freight forwarding companies need in order to make sure that all the shipment goes through, and that, like the Vietnamese government, before they release the shipments, they want to make sure that the paperwork is in place for them to get their taxes. When America receives the goods at the border, the Customs Border and Protection Agency will make sure that the paperwork is done correctly so that the U.S. government gets their taxes. To answer the question, how many contracts will you need? You really only need one, which is the export contract, which we're going to talk about in a minute. But my recommendation, my advice is to also do a production contract. And the production contract is just practical, and it will only be used in the future if there's a dispute. Think of it more as a memorandum of understanding. It's not necessarily a legal document, because I don't recommend that you ever sue a factory or take them to court, because it's just not worth it. The chances of you winning versus the amount of money you'll have to spend to go to court is you'll almost guaranteed you'll lose. So, but you'll still want to negotiate with the factory, and if they do something wrong, you'll try to negotiate with them. And if you have a production contract that's in writing, just makes it easier to negotiate. So write down everything that you want in this production contract. We'll talk more about later exactly what's in it. Whatever you do, don't let them try to tell you that you don't need one. If they try to talk you out of doing a production contract, to me, that's a red flag. And if that's the case, then I wouldn't proceed with them. Have yours prepared in advance. And if you want, get it translated into Vietnamese. Insist that they go over it with them in detail, and have them sign it. Make a copy for them, a copy for you, and ask them to sign it. Sign it before you make the deposit. So what goes into a production contract? You want to write things like explain the sampling process, and if you don't know, ask them, and then whatever they tell you, write it down. Set the production and delivery milestones and deadlines. So ask them to predict what those milestones and deadlines will be, and then put them into the production contract. Describe your QC plan in details. And if they don't agree to your plan, then ask them what is their plan, and then write down what they say and put that in the production contract, assuming you agree to it. Then list out the payment schedule. Create a plan for leftover fabrics and trims. Describe the penalties if there are any QC problems. And if you don't know, ask them, what will happen if we have some significant QC problems? How will we handle it? If they don't have an answer for you, that's a red flag. So then you could propose, okay, well, if this QC problem happens, this is what I expect you to do, or this is how much I expect you to compensate me for. And then list out the penalties for factory delays. And if the factory's on the ball, they'll also ask to include in the production contract what would be your penalties if you delay. So just think about what could go wrong, and then write down how you'll solve those problems if they do go wrong in the production contract. So as I said earlier, really, technically, all you need is an export contract from the government's point of view and the freight forwarding company's point of view. The government and the freight forwarders are not going to ask you for the production contract. That's really just an MOU between you and the factory. Another reason why you have to do two contracts is because the export contract can only be done literally a week before the goods are ready to be shipped. Because like if you order, say, 5,000 units of something, rarely does the factory ever produce exactly 5,000. It'll be like 5,000 plus or minus 2%. But when it comes to creating the packing list and the shipping documents, the numbers have to be exact, because the value of the export contract is based on the quantity of goods times the FOB price. And it's an exact number. So that's another reason why if you ask the factory for an export contract before you make a deposit, they won't be able to do it, because the quantities are theoretical. So that's why you do a production contract, MOU, before you make the deposit at the very beginning of the negotiation phase. And then like a week before you're ready to ship the goods out, the freight forwarding company will start pushing you for the export contract, along with a bunch of other shipping documents like the packing list. And the packing list and the export contract have to match exactly. So it is the official contract for import-export documents and tax, and it's used for tax purposes. And the quantities and prices are exact, and they're the final quantities and prices. It's done at the last minute, and the freight forwarding company will ask you for it, and the numbers on the packing list and the export contract have to match exactly. In summary, just know that you have the option of either being an individual or a company on the export contract as party A, and make sure you do a production contract, which is more of an MOU, and it's just between you and the factory. It's not a legal document. And then you will have the export document, which is a legal document that's done at the end of the whole production phase. In the next lesson, we're going to be talking about what is your role in the production process. See you there.